Hi trader, welcome to this video analysis brought to you by Admiral Markets. My name is Chris and I'm going to take a look at the bullish momentum that we saw on Friday's trading and take a look at what the key resistance could be. Alright, that means looking at the euro dollar, pound dollar, dollar yen and AUD USD, but before we do that, please be aware that the video is intended for a global audience. It may not be suitable for everyone. To find out more information about that and other details, visit admiralmarketsglobal.com, select your country of residence and contact an appropriate entity. Also, trading for exchange and global financial markets is considered high risk and may not be suitable for everyone. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. This video is for informational and educational purposes only, and when continuing watching this video, you agree with this disclaimer. Alright traders, here you see the pound dollar weekly chart plus Admiral Markets Supreme Edition of the MT4 with 50 plus features, special features that you will really enjoy as a trader. Well, the pound dollar weekly chart has reached the 50 fib and in fact is perhaps bouncing off of that, but for the moment I'm still considering the fact that this could be a bigger correction and price could get up to the 61.8 fib. Now of course all that changes if we break through this bottom of 152ish here, 151.80, then there's a chance of a zigzag, price respected the 50 fib, and we can head towards the minus 272 target in something what perhaps could look like this. Alright, but until that moment, until this breaks, I'm not too sure that we have started that zigzag as yet. And in fact, considering last week's wick, we could also be doing this, which is expanding the correction up to the 61.8, which of course would be a major resistance zone for a turnaround back down. So that's my primary analysis at the moment. When looking at the daily chart, I can see the price is bouncing at this trend line right here, so I will draw right there the support line, and if that breaks, plus this bottom primarily here, those are important support levels. I should draw that in green in fact for the market, and if they do break here, then we could see the potential start of that bigger zigzag that I just mentioned. As long as price stays above this support line, there is that chance actually that we can go up to the 61.8, which now on the daily chart we can see that could be an interesting space to the upside. So how do I know that that potential bounce, what happened here, will continue? I will look down to the 4-hour chart, all right, and when looking at the 4-hour chart, what I see are some major resistance lines that need to be broken first of all, before we could have that upside. And so we have clear resistance line here, and a clear support line. So what I'm looking for is a break of those lines before estimating if we get a bullish zigzag up to the 61.8, or we get that bearish zigzag down to the minus 272 target. All right, so those are the key lines in the sand at the moment. Now, from an hourly perspective, this does look like a pretty good momentum, right? We got momentum here, correction, momentum, correction. So I wouldn't be surprised personally to see eventually one more upside, hit this trend line, and because that's a 5-wave, for those that like it, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm expecting actually this to be then A, we go down for a B, and then up for a C. That's what I'm expecting at the moment for the pound dollar. And the ABC, we're now in wave 4. I'm expecting a wave 5 green, basically. Let me write that here. And basically for A, then B down, then up to C. And that C could take price, in that regard, it could take it pretty far. A could end up here, B, and then C could make all the way that move up like this to test these tops, for instance. All right, so that's the pound dollar. Looking, from my perspective, the potential for a bullish break, but of course this resistance is important, and there could be struggles with price when it does get up to here, which could cause price to go down for B, after which I would expect a bounce again at this trend line. In general, of course, it's always good to wait and very important to wait for price action candlestick kind of confirmations like pin bars and engulfing twins. Now, when we look at the pound dollar and compare it to the other pairs, when looking at the 1-hour chart, when looking at the correlation matrix, you can see that, for instance, the pound dollar and the euro dollar, they have a weak positive correlation, but we're looking at the hourly. And if we then zoom out to the daily, you get a different view, and you can see that actually the pound dollar and the euro dollar are heavily correlated. So probably they'll be showing the same movement, the downside and upside. If we look at the AUD USD and the euro USD, you see strong positive correlation here too. everywhere where there's blue or green, basically, it's kind of a weaker combination, and if it's red, it would be very strong correlation. All right, so that's a very cool way correlation matrix. That's part of the MT4 Supreme edition of Admiral Markets. So take a look at that. A lot of good things and cool stuff. Also with regard to the risk management and making the lot size, which you can easily do with the MT4 Supreme. So let's take a look at that euro dollar, and I'm expecting indeed here you can see a bit of a correction just like the pound dollar, but also a good momentum to the downside. So this could be basically a retracement up to the 38.2 fib at 117. So if it does get up to 117, I would expect that to be a very big resistance spot and a continuation of the downtrend, perhaps down to parity. Now, will price get there? I'm not sure. If price does break through this support line, I might not expect that actually anymore. For the moment, as long as it stays above 108, I am still holding on to the fact that price could get up to 38.2, which would be a big turning spot for downside. When looking at the daily chart, we see a clear triangle, and basically price here stuck between those two lines, and we had a recent bounce off the green support line. And actually on a 4-hour chart, we can see that price broke these inner trend lines. So there could be kind of like a zigzag correction here. I wouldn't be surprised if price hooks back and then bounces back to the top of this triangle. At the moment, this is the most important, the green line and the red line. And we're kind of relatively closer to the bottom. So I would expect price to actually retest that line and bounce up to retest the top within this wedge after breaking this internal line indicated by orange. Now, of course, be aware of all the news events that are going to be presented to you this week. Among others, of course, the Greek and Eurozone negotiations, and that's something that has to be carefully considered when trading the euro dollar and all currency pairs, in fact. Please be aware that before I show the dollar yen and AUD USD, we have a great lineup of webinars this week. Nanette is going to take a look at low volatility trading on Wednesday and the weekly FX recap on Monday. I'm taking a look at live trading on Tuesday, Wednesday, analysis on Tuesday, trendline trading, and Wednesday strategy. And Thursday, Nanette and I are going to take a look at the Black Swan events and how to protect yourself against that. A great lineup, I think, as always. So hope to see you in one of these webinars. When looking at the AUD USD 4-hour chart, basically what I find important are these two levels, these red lines here. It's kind of in the consolidation zone. When you look at the 1-hour chart, you see the price is stuck between those levels. So I think that, looking at the momentum, of course, that we had to the downside, that a break of 74 could signal that the continuation of the downtrend on the AUD USD. If we do break above 75, we might retest this trend line right here, the broken return line around 76, for instance. But that's a counter trend move, and I would rather wait for probably price to bounce off that broken trend line than trade to it. So important 74 and 76, I think, for bearish kind of bounces and breaks. Break below 74 and a bounce at 76. Last but not least, the dollar yen. Looking at a pretty strong bullish candle and reaction when price got into that 120 zone and a strong bounce. Now, looking at that bullish candle, I would not be surprised to see a break of last week's high. And personally, a retracement of last week's candle could be very interesting for a continuation. Just putting a fib on that candle itself and waiting for the 38.2 or 50 fib, I think could be an interesting move with the stop loss below it and a target at -272 and -618. Nothing wrong with that trade setup, I think, just looking as a classical pin bar on this weekly chart. When zooming into the daily, you can see that momentum, but also, of course, the fact that price has been in this downside for a while, and we're at this resistance line. So that could cause, the resistance line could cause price to make that retracement down to the 50 fib, for instance, and we could see maybe a bounce because of that pin bar right about here. Now, when it does get to the -618 target, I think that could be a heavy resistance level. There's, first of all, this spot right here, this resistance, and I think that there could be weakness as it approaches basically this top. And looking at the weekly chart, I give it about 2 weeks. If it doesn't break this top within 2 weeks, I think that a bigger retracement downwards basically to perhaps retest this bottom right in here at about 118, maybe even 115 is possible. So the next 2 weeks I think are crucial. In the next 2 weeks, I'm expecting this bullish zigzag to complete. But if it doesn't break this top within 2 weeks, then probably this is going to turn into a resistance zone. That's how I look at the dollar yen. Thanks for listening. Hope to see you in the social media here with all the good analysis that is brought to you by Admiral Markets, and in the webinars, of course, this week. Good trading, and talk to you soon. Cheers.